It was 6 a.m. in Tokyo when a lone girl pedaled her bicycle toward a small auto repair shop. Her name was Hana Kurokawa. At 16, she should have been a second-year high school student, laughing with friends and worrying about exams. Instead, she stood trembling in greasy overalls, fear knotting her stomach. The moment the shop's shutter rolled open, a voice barked, "Hey, you drop out!" It was Kenji Tanaka, a man in his 40s and the de facto boss of Yamada Auto Works. From day one, he had treated Hana like a personal enemy. Yes, she answered quietly, already used to the insults. For the past 6 months, she had been paraded every morning without fail. If you're going to be useless, at least get here earlier. In reality, Hana was always the first to arrive, but Tanaka didn't care. Any excuse to pick on her would do. A girl like you will never be a mechanic. Around them, the other workers smirked, none lifting a finger to defend her. Hana bit her lip, swallowing the urge to shout back. She knew she wasn't incompetent. Her father had taught her real skills. Good skills. But she couldn't speak up. Losing this job meant losing the ability to support her younger brother, Sho. That day, Tanaka assigned her to clean the toilets again. "You're 100 years too early to be working on cars." "I understand," Hana replied, bowing deeply. Pride had long since been discarded. She would do anything to survive. 1 year earlier, Hana's life had been completely different. She was a first-year high school student and the star player of her school's basketball team. Her parents cheered from the stands during a semi-final match, while Sho, still in 5th grade, stubbornly stayed home over some petty argument. Thanks to her efforts, the team won and advanced to the finals. She ran to her parents after the game, grinning. "You played so well," her father said. "Thanks. Hey, can I go to the after-game party with my friends?" "Sure, but don't be too late," her mother replied. "Got it." That was the last conversation they ever had. Midway through the party, her phone rang, an unfamiliar number. "This is the police. Your parents have been in a traffic accident." Hana's world collapsed. A car had crossed into their lane head-on. Sho sat beside her at the hospital, trembling, too young to understand. "When will Mom and Dad wake up?" he asked innocently. Hana couldn't answer. She could only hug him tightly. After the funeral, relatives gathered. That meeting would derail Hana's life completely. "So, what's going to happen to these kids?" asked her Aunt Reiko, a flashy woman in her 50s. "Not us," said her Uncle Koji, folding his arms. "We can't afford 2 more mouths to feed." Hana sat silently, feeling like a burden passed around. "My husband always said, 'Your parents had no sense 2 kids and no savings,'" another aunt muttered. Something in Hana snapped. "Stop it," she said, voice trembling. But they kept going. "That's why accidents happen. Carelessness." "Stop it!" Hana stood shaking. "Don't insult my parents," her aunt sneered. "You think you can survive on your own? You should be grateful if anyone takes you in." Hana hugged Sho, who shook in fear. "These people aren't our family," she thought. They showed their true colors the moment Mom and Dad died. "We'll live on our own," she said aloud. "A high schooler? Don't be ridiculous." "I'd rather die than rely on people who insult my parents." She grabbed Sho's hand and walked out. 3 days later, Hana submitted her withdrawal papers at school. "Are you sure? You're the team's ace and the finals are soon," her teacher pleaded. "I can't. Scholarships won't be enough. We need money now." She wanted to keep playing basketball, but survival came first. That's how she ended up at Yamada Auto Works, one of the few places rumored to hire without a high school diploma. The man interviewing her was Tanaka. 16, middle school graduate, he said with disdain. "Yes, but I'll work hard," Hana replied. His gaze made her skin crawl, but she had no choice. We're short-staffed. 10,000 yen a month, take it or leave it. Yes, thank you, she said, bowing deeply, thinking this was the start of a new life. She didn't know she was stepping into hell. From the very first day, Tanaka's treatment of Hana was merciless. Hey, Kurokawa, he barked one morning, a rusted bolt in his hand. Polish this. She took it, confused. This thing's unusable, she said softly. Your job is to make it usable. Here. He dumped a pile of rusted bolts and nuts in front of her. Make them all shine. If you can't, you're staying late without overtime pay. Hana knew the demand was unreasonable, but she silently picked up the wire brush and started working. Her fingertips turned raw and red, but she kept going. She told herself everyone probably went through this at first, and if she endured, maybe they'd respect her. But 2 months passed, then 3. Things didn't get better, they got worse. At the end of her 3rd month, payday finally came. Hana accepted the envelope with nervous anticipation, only to freeze when she looked inside. 50,000 yen. Excuse me, wasn't I told it would be 100,000? Tanaka's eyes narrowed. Training period, and you've been costing me money with your mistakes. You're lucky I'm not firing you. I haven't... 3 of my tools broke because you handled them like trash. That's 30,000 yen coming out of next month's pay. It was a lie. Her father had taught her to treat tools with respect, but Hana could only bite her lip. If she quit, Sho would have nowhere to turn. One evening, she was sweeping outside the shop when she heard familiar voices. That new dessert place looks amazing, giggled a girl. It was a group of her old classmates. One of them spotted her and stopped. Hana, what are you doing here? She lowered her gaze, ashamed of the greasy overalls she wore. The laughter died. Pity and awkwardness filled the air. We're heading to a cafe. See you around. Good luck, one of them said before they hurried away. Watching them leave, Hana held back tears. They were still living normal high school lives, clubs, friends, laughter. She was the only one left behind. At home, Sho greeted her with his usual question. How was school today? Fine, she answered. His smile faltered. He didn't ask again. Hana could tell. Someone must have said something to him about their situation. Then, one evening, everything changed. She was outside checking a car when a strange metallic screech reached her ears, sharp, rhythmic. She turned to see an old blue sedan waiting at the traffic light. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. That sound could be a brake pad, or worse, fluid leak. The light turned green and the car began to move. Hey, Kurokawa, what are you doing? Tanaka yelled from the doorway. That car's brakes may be failing. It could cause an accident. Not our customer, not our problem. But Hana remembered her parents' accident. Without another word, she dropped her tools and ran. She caught up with the car at the next light, knocking on the driver's window. An elderly woman, elegant even in surprise, looked at her. Yes? I'm from Yamada Auto. I think your brakes have a serious problem. Please let me check before you drive any farther. The woman hesitated, a stranger, and a young girl at that. It was natural to doubt her. Please, Hana begged. I learned from my father. If I'm wrong, you lose 5 minutes. If I'm right, it could save your life. Something in her sincerity must have reached the woman. She pulled over. 5 minutes. Thank you. Hana sprinted back for tools, slid under the car, and shone a flashlight. Her suspicion was right. A hairline crack in the master cylinder, brake fluid slowly leaking out. This is dangerous. I'll do a temporary fix so you can get to a proper shop safely, she explained, working quickly. The woman watched, surprised at her skill. In less than 20 minutes, the job was done. This will only hold for a short time. Please get it repaired properly right away. The woman studied her oil-stained, sweat-covered face and saw eyes full of determination. What's your name? Hana Kurokawa. I'll remember that. Thank you. She drove away, leaving Hana with a rare feeling pride. When Hana returned to the shop, Tanaka was waiting furious. You took my tools to do free work? What is this? A charity? From tomorrow, your pay's cut by 20,000. Any complaints? She swallowed her anger and bowed. For show's sake, she could endure anything. 1 week later, the atmosphere at the shop felt wrong. Tanaka called her into the office. On the desk sat a turbocharger worth 300,000 yen. This is missing from inventory. You know what it is? Yes, but I don't. You were in the parts room last week. Another worker, Okada, stepped in. I saw her leave the parts room with something in her hands. That's a lie, Hana snapped. The security cameras, Tanaka claimed, were broken. It was a setup. I can call the police right now. A dropout fired for theft. No one will hire you. Your little brother will end up on the streets. What do you want? She asked quietly. Get on your knees and apologize. I'll deduct the cost from your wages instead of pressing charges. That's fair, isn't it? The number was outrageous, but Hana had no choice. She slowly sank to her knees. That was when a firm voice rang out, Stop this! Everyone in the room turned toward the doorway. There she stood, the elegant older woman from a week ago. But now she wore a tailored suit, and behind her stood several people who looked like aides or assistants. You... Tanaka's face shifted from anger to uncertainty. The woman walked in, her heels clicking sharply on the floor, and took a card from her bag. I'm Masako Kanda, President and CEO of Kanda Automotive Parts Industries. The room froze. Kanda Industries wasn't just a client of Yamada Auto Works. It was their biggest, nearly their only supplier contract. This young woman saved my life last week, Masako said clearly. She noticed a critical brake failure on my car that none of my own staff caught and prevented a major accident. She also preserved a vehicle my late husband cherished. Masako's gaze swept over Tanaka like ice. Then why? She asked. Is she on her knees in your office? She stole a part, Tanaka stammered. Without proof? You accuse an employee of theft? Her voice was calm, but the air felt heavy. Perhaps I need to reconsider our business relationship. The color drained from Tanaka's face. Losing Kanda Industries meant instant bankruptcy. Masako turned to Hana, extending a hand. Stand up. You've done nothing wrong. Hana lifted her head slowly, tears blurring her vision. For the first time in so long, someone was on her side. Thank you, she whispered, rising to her feet. But then, unexpectedly, she dropped to her knees again. Masako blinked in surprise. What are you doing? I'll solve this myself, Hana said, voice trembling. A year ago, after my parents died, I swore I'd never rely on anyone again. No one helped me. I have to handle my own problems. Masako studied her for a long moment. She could see it, the stubborn pride born from deep wounds. I see, she said softly. I'll respect your choice. But Tanaka, if anything like this happens again, our contract is finished. After Masako left, the harassment became even worse. Tanaka's rage was relentless. Every day he reminded her of the 300,000 yen she owed, forcing her to work from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. without rest. Her body ached constantly, but she refused to collapse, not while Sho depended on her. One night, she came home to find him crying quietly in bed. What's wrong? She asked gently. They said the last payment for my school trip is 30,000 yen, but you can't pay that, right? Hana's heart twisted. It's okay, he said quickly. You're working so hard for me already. She hugged him tightly, hating herself for letting an 11-year-old comfort her. The next morning, she tried to get up at her usual time, but her body wouldn't move. Her limbs felt like lead, the room spinning when she forced herself upright. She collapsed to the floor, hearing Sho's panicked voice fading. Big sis! When she woke, she saw a white ceiling. The doctor's voice was cold. Severe malnutrition and overwork. If you continue, you may die. You need at least a week of rest. I can't, she tried to get up. I have to work. Sho burst into the room, tears streaming. This is my fault. If I wasn't here, you wouldn't have to. No, Hana said firmly, gripping his hand. We're family. We stay together. But then he whispered, I'll go to a foster home. Her heart stopped. That way you'll be free. I don't want to hurt you anymore. The thought of losing him shattered every wall she'd built. She clung to him, sobbing. No, don't leave me. For the first time, her pride crumbled completely. She needed help. She pulled the IV from her arm, ignored the nurse's protests, and staggered out of the hospital. Her destination, Kanda Automotive, Parts Industries headquarters. Rain began to fall as she stood outside the gleaming glass building. The receptionist frowned at her drenched overalls. Do you have an appointment? No, but please, I have to see President Kanda. I'm sorry, that's not possible. Hana stepped back outside into the rain, dropped to her knees on the concrete, and pressed her forehead to the ground. Please, help my brother, she begged. Passers-by whispered. Security guards eyed her warily, but she stayed there, shivering, for over an hour until her vision began to blur. Then, Hana? She looked up weakly. Masako's warm hands were lifting her. What happened? Come inside. Masako wrapped her in a towel and gave her hot tea. Tell me everything, she said gently. And Hana did. Her parents' death, her relatives' betrayal, the abuse at the shop, the stolen wages, Sho's school trip. When she finished, Masako squeezed her hand. You fought so hard. No 16-year-old should have to endure this. From the day you saved me, I've been looking into that shop, and now... Her eyes hardened. Now it's my turn to help you. The following morning, Hana's body still ached, but Masako had told her firmly, Go to the shop. No matter what happens, just be there. So she did. Tanaka was already waiting at the entrance, his face flushed with anger. Where the hell were you yesterday? That's an unauthorized absence. I'm cutting your whole month's pay. I'm sorry, Hana said softly, bowing her head. Then the sound of engines echoed outside, 3 sleek black luxury cars pulling up in front of the shop. Masako stepped out of the lead car, her heels clicking on the pavement. Full pay cut? Her voice was razor-sharp, cutting through the air. Tanaka spun around, his expression morphing into disbelief. Kanda. President Kanda? Behind her came a team 2 lawyers, an accountant, and officers from the Labor Standards Inspection Office. Hana stood small and still in the corner, but Masako caught her eye and gave a small, reassuring nod before facing Tanaka again. Did I hear you say you cut her entire month's pay for one absence? Masako's tone was calm, but her words carried weight. That's against the law, she continued. Even as a penalty, deductions can't exceed 1/10 of wages. That's... Tanaka stammered, searching for an excuse. Let's talk about something else, Masako said smoothly, gesturing to her aide. Yamamoto, her secretary, laid out documents on a table. These are Hana Kurokawa's pay slips for the last 6 months. Each month's wages are well below the legal minimum. That's a violation of the Labor Standards Act. An inspector stepped forward. We'll begin an immediate investigation. Wait, Tanaka started, but Masako was already showing the next piece of evidence, a photograph. In the image, Tanaka was shoving Hana against the wall. One of my employees happened to witness this and recorded it, Masako said coldly. The lawyer beside her spoke up. That's assault. Criminal charges are applicable. Okada, standing nearby, had gone pale. And this, Masako continued, revealing the final blow, a USB drive containing security footage. On the screen, Okada was clearly seen taking the expensive part from storage and placing it inside Hana's locker. You said the cameras were broken, didn't you? Masako's voice was ice. This is attempted theft and obstruction of business, and considering the threats you made to extort repayment, it's also blackmail. A man in the crowd stepped forward hesitantly. I can't stay silent anymore, he said. It was a former employee. I quit because the bullying here was too much. I saw them plant that part, and I saw them trying to make her drink engine oil as a joke. Others began stepping forward too, people who had seen the abuse but had been too afraid to speak until now. Tanaka turned to them. You traitors! It's not betrayal, one of them replied evenly. It's doing the right thing. Masako took a step closer to Tanaka, her eyes like steel. As of this moment, Kanda Automotive Parts Industries is terminating all business with Yamada Auto Works. Tanaka's face drained of all color. No. If you do that, you'll go bankrupt. Then so be it. I have no place in my industry for people who treat workers as disposable. She turned to the assembled staff. And I wonder, do you know how much this young woman has done for you? Look at these maintenance records. They're full of mistakes, but your customers never complained. Why? Because Hana stayed late, in secret, to fix your errors before the cars went out. She covered for all of you without a word. Hana's breath caught. She hadn't thought anyone knew. Tears welled in her eyes. The mechanics stared at her in shock. Some turned away in shame. Within an hour, the shop was effectively shut down. Arrest warrants were issued for Tanaka and Okada. The other workers were dismissed, though Masako promised to help rehire those who came forward with testimony. One mechanic approached Hana and bowed deeply. I'm sorry for everything. Hana just nodded silently. Masako guided her into the waiting car. You endured far too much, she said gently. Hana's tears spilled over again. Back at Masako's office, the lawyer spread out several documents on the polished table. We'll be filing claims for unpaid wages, emotional damages, and health-related harm. The total is 50 million yen. 50 million? Hana repeated, stunned. That's the minimum, the lawyer said flatly. Given the severity of the abuse, we could justify more. Masako smiled faintly. Between their remaining assets and liquidation, they'll pay. You won't have to worry about a thing. Hana's hands trembled. 50 million yen enough to finally live safely with Sho, to erase the constant fear of survival. Then Masako leaned forward. Hana, I have an offer. Come work for me. Not because you saved me, that's in the past, but because your skills are real. I've seen them with my own eyes. Hana stared. You mean as a mechanic? Masako nodded. And I promise you'll never go through something like that again. The tears came before she could stop them, but this time they weren't from pain. Are you sure? About me? I'd be a fool not to hire someone with your talent, Masako said warmly. That evening, Hana was officially discharged from the hospital and returned home. Sho was waiting at the door, his expression anxious. Big sis, are you okay? Please don't push yourself anymore. Hana hugged him tightly. It's okay now. I've got a new job. A proper company this time, and... She told him everything about Masako, the new workplace, and the compensation. Sho's eyes widened. 50 million? Does that mean I can still go on the school trip? Hana smiled through her tears. Not just the trip. You'll never have to worry again. He started crying too, and they clung to each other, the long nightmare finally breaking. A month later, Hana stood in crisp new overalls at Kanda Automotive Parts Industries Maintenance Division. I'm Hana Kurokawa. Please take care of me, she said, bowing deeply. Welcome. We've been waiting for you, replied Takeshi Sato, the division head, a seasoned mechanic in his 50s, with kind eyes. Here, there was no shouting, no humiliation, only pride in their work and respect for each other. Hana, could you check this engine for me? Sato asked. She ran her hands over it, listening closely to its sound. Cylinder 3 has an issue, likely valve clearance. Sato's eyebrows rose. You can tell that quickly? My father taught me. She smiled shyly. He must have been an excellent mechanic, Sato said. Yes, he was, she replied, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. Hana's skill quickly earned recognition. One of her proposed repair methods reduced working time by 30% and was adopted into the company manual. Later, she even developed a diagnostic process to predict part wear and innovation. Sato insisted they patent under the name Kurokawa method. The life here was nothing like before. Regular hours, proper breaks, and pay more than 7 times what she'd earned at Yamada Auto Works. One evening after work, she ran into her old basketball teammates at the station. Hana! It's been ages! They admitted they'd always wondered about her, but hadn't known how to reach out. I'm working at Kanda now, she said. Their jaws dropped. That's amazing! For the first time, she realized they hadn't abandoned her. They'd just been unsure how to help. Months later, her story made the news. Young mechanic develops patented technique. That same night, her phone rang. Hana-chan, it's Aunt Reiko. I saw you on TV. I always knew you were talented, just like your father. Hana listened quietly. This was the same woman who had mocked her parents at the funeral. I'm sorry, but as you told me a year ago, we're not family. The line went silent. Hana ended the call without hesitation. In her workspace at Kanda, a framed photo of her parents hung on the wall, next to the patent certificate and company awards. I'm doing okay, Dad, Mom, she whispered, smiling. She thought back to that rainy day, kneeling outside Masako's building. Throwing away her pride to ask for help had changed everything. Masako's words still stayed with her. You don't have to carry everything alone. Now, every morning, she stepped into the shop knowing she wasn't alone. The sound of tools, the voices of her colleagues, and the hum of engines filled the air. She had found her place. A year had passed since that rainy morning when Hana knelt in front of Kanda Industries, her body trembling from exhaustion, but her voice steady as she begged for help. Now, she no longer woke before dawn in fear of what insults or punishments awaited her. She woke to the steady rhythm of a life built on respect, surrounded by people who valued her for who she was and what she could do. Sho was thriving, laughing with friends, doing well in school, and telling her about his dreams without hesitation. He still kept a souvenir from his school trip on his desk, a reminder of the day he realized his sister would always fight for him. At Kanda Automotive Parts Industries, Hana had become a name people recognized, not as a victim, but as a mechanic with a patented technique. She was the youngest in the company to be entrusted with training new hires, many of whom looked at her with the same admiration she once had for her father. Sometimes, when she stayed late finishing a project, she'd pause to glance at the framed photo of her parents hanging by her workbench. She'd tell them about the day's repairs, about Show's latest joke, about how she was doing just fine now. She no longer felt the weight of carrying everything alone. She had her brother, her colleagues, and Masako, who still visited the shop every now and then, greeting her with the same warm smile from that first day she truly felt saved. Life hadn't been easy, and it never would be perfect. But as Hana tightened the final bolt on a customer's car, she knew this truth. If you refuse to give up, even when you have nothing left, the right people will find their way to you. And when they do, you'll never have to fight alone again. The engine roared to life. Hana smiled. Her road was just beginning.